we have Major Gaurav Arya with us, and Gaurav is kind of retired veteran from Indian Army. He is chief CEO of one of the Singapore-based multinational corporations, and his expertise is on international relations. And Gaurav will be speaking from the point of view of international relations and neighborhood and its impact on the policies in Jammu and Kashmir. And he'll be always also speaking regarding what are the positive changes happening in the valley. So Gaurav, floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you and Jai Hind. There is a saying that cometh the time, cometh the man. And I would like to take this further and say that over the past 1 year, 1.5 years, one thing is clear to the rest of India. You get the Home Minister you deserve. So now, after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, there is a sense of positivity in the air. And I think these tough measures were required, which Mr. Amit Shah ji took, which is why I said you deserve the Home Minister, that you get the Home Minister that you deserve. And what does it mean? It basically means that tough situations call for tough people to take tough actions. And that is exactly what has been done. Now, Kashmir has always, traditionally, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, uh, it has been a closely held corporation. It was never a government. It was never for the people, by the people. It was a closely held corporation that worked for largely the benefit of two families, the Abdullahs and the Muftis, and it worked for the personal enrichment and power of a few elite. And 99% of those elite were in the Kashmir Valley proper. Gopkar Road to be precise, but let us say Kashmir Valley proper. Now, yes, the Kashmiri Pandits suffered. That is true. Yes, the Dogras have been marginalized, have been hugely suffering for so many decades. That part is also true. But the more I go to the Kashmir Valley, and I was there recently, as recent as 15 days back, the common Muslim also suffers. That is true. And both these families, the Abdullahs and the Muftis, had ensured that for 70 years, directly and indirectly, and more after 1989, that blood continued to flow in Kashmir. Because if Kashmir became a quote unquote normal place, a peaceful place, people would start asking questions. So when Article 370 and 35A were abrogated, they were removed. Before that, there were a spate of statements by the Mufti family and the Abdullah family saying that there will be rivers of blood. Kashmir is sitting on a powder keg, it will blow up. There'll be dead bodies everywhere. And they also said that तिरंगे को कंधा देने वाला कोई नहीं होगा. They should have said तिरंगे को फहराने वाला कोई नहीं होगा, but they said तिरंगे को कंधे देने वाला. There'll be nobody to hoist the tricolor in Kashmir. Now, all these things have been proved fake. Now, Kaul Saab mentioned that interview which Farooq Abdullah gave to that journalist Thapar, and you said that Kashmiris would much rather, be ruled by the Chinese. I would like to tell Abdullah Saab that why don't you try going to China and at the immigration counter say that your name is Farooq Abdullah, and then you see the fun. You'll come to know what true enjoyment is. Just to tell him, I think he already knows, but just to remind him that 1.5 million Muslims are in concentration camps in China. And Farooq Abdullah has not raised a single word against the Chinese government. So, saying that they'll be happier. Why? Why everybody? A guy from Delhi, a normal middle class guy, he'll be happier in New York City, right? Which does not mean he's going to New York anytime soon. So let's get rid of these fanciful flights of, his own ambition that Farooq Abdullah and other people keep on having. Now, this 35A and 370 are gone. And I want to tell the people who are listening, and they are gone. First of all, let's accept that they are gone. Let's also accept that they're not coming back ever. The Congress party has promised that they will get back 35A and 370 if they come to power. Now, if they come to power is like the Halley's Comet, once in 75 years. But also, the fact that in 1971, Indira Gandhi said, Garibi hatao, and we are still waiting. So, don't take up Congress on its promises because they have a very, very bad track record. It's never coming back. See, jokes apart, we must understand 35A 370 is never coming back. It's gone. It was done constitutionally. It was done in the parliament by both the upper house and the lower house. It was signed off by the president of India. There is no power on earth that can undo this. So let's stop wasting time, saying that we will work and it will come back, etc. It's not coming back ever. You see, now this thing about domicile law and change of demographics, which has been something that has been tom-tommed as a threat. Now, I just want to play the devil's advocate here. That is what Karan Thapar does, the devil's advocate, and he asked a similar question to Farooq Abdullah. So let me play that role. So what if there is a demographic change? So what? The people who live in Bangalore, a lot of them are not Bangaloreans, are not from Karnataka. Many people who live in Hyderabad are not from Hyderabad at all. They're outsiders. They're North Indians. People who live in Delhi, the demographics of Delhi changed overnight in 1947. Delhi had a very minimal Punjabi population in 1947-48. It became a Punjabi majority city, and that's all right. Noida, where I'm going live from right now, most of the people who are in Noida are not locals. You see, look at the United States of America, where Kaul is streaming live from. Look at Australia. Immigration happens, whether it happens to other countries or whether it happens internally. The Wild West in America, the famous Wild West, that was a barren patch of land. It is only after the railroads came that people came and settled the West. There was nothing in the West, just Red Indian tribes. So, you look at this entire thing. This thing has been blown out of proportion that there will be a demographic change. So, demographic change has happened in Mumbai. There are Gujaratis in Mumbai, right? There are Marwadis in Mumbai. There are North Indians in Mumbai. Everybody goes to Mumbai to earn his or her livelihood. The demographics of Mumbai have also changed. And I want to ask this whole thing about, you'll buy your land and you'll buy our land. Who will buy land? In the past 1 year, after abrogation of 35A, whatever the government rules, I'm saying forget about the rules because people don't seem to be quoting rules that much. They're dependent mostly on rumors. How many people have actually bought land in J&K? If I have money, why would I buy land in J&K? Because it's beautiful? I'm sorry. It is beautiful. Of course, it's very beautiful. Kashmir looks like Switzerland, and there is no doubt about that. The thing is that if I go to Kashmir for 10 days, I'll stay in a hotel. Why do I need to spend 50 lakh rupees and buy a house? I'd rather buy a house in Delhi and get rental income on that house. So this entire thing about, people going and saying that we'll buy land and people from outside will come, the rest of India, and they'll grab land. Nobody will come there. There could be one or two odd people. And, Manuji mentioned a very, very valid point about people not being given domicile. What's the problem if you give a domicile? What is the problem? Why should you have these acts and laws which discriminate? You can't be asking for equitable treatment in the rest of India and then not voluntarily offer the same treatment to other people when they come to Kashmir. You see, I'm sorry, Jammu and Kashmir. I often end up saying Kashmir. My apologies. So what I want to say is that whatever has happened for the better. It has happened for Dogras. It has happened for Kashmiri Muslims. It's happened for Kashmiri Hindus, including Pandits. It's happened for Gurkhas. It's happened for the Valmikis. It's happened for the West Pakistani refugees. It's happened for everybody across the board. And who are the people who are actually upset? I went to Kashmir. I spoke to some locals also. And slowly they're understanding. I'm talking specifically of Kashmiri Muslims. Now, slowly they're understanding that, they've been fed a lot of lies. Now, where is Syed Ali Shah Gilani suddenly? He resigned. All right. Where is he? Where is the Hurriyat conference? Where are the stone pelters? Where are the regular attacks of terrorists? Where, for heaven's sake, are the shutdowns? There would be a weekly Hartal calendar, which good friend Syed Ali Shah Gilani from his mansion in Hyderpura would say, that, this is the Hartal calendar. And on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the shops will be closed. These people have set back Kashmir 100 years. They have set back Kashmir 100 years. And that is why when they say that people will come and settle in Kashmir, my friend, if you have set back Kashmir and Jammu by 100 years, who will come and settle there? You know why people come to Noida? Because it is the most developed place in Uttar Pradesh. How many people actually go and settle in Jhansi, which is also in Uttar Pradesh? How many people will go and settle in the back of beyond of Balia or Gorakhpur? They'll not go and settle there. People go where there are job opportunities. People go where there are economic opportunities. People go where there is development. You must develop Jammu and Kashmir. There should be money in the pocket of people. People should get equal rights. And it is not just, merging Jammu and Kashmir physically and politically with the rest of the country. There should be emotional merging of Jammu and Kashmir with the rest of the country. Whether it's the Muslims, the Pandits, the Togras, anybody, all castes and communities should feel that they are equal partners in this growth story called India. And truth be told, and this is what I honestly feel, many people disagree. I'm no intellectual, but this I feel from the bottom of my heart, that we have only one identity, that we are Indians and we are nothing without this identity. We matter for zero. You take out Indian from my name, you take out Indian from my identity, and what am I? Dust. That's all. So this entire thing about integrating Jammu and Kashmir with the rest of India, I think 35A and 370 plus the new domicile laws, like Manuji was very rightly saying, it was 10 years, it's been made 15 years over a period of time. So, maybe there are sensitivities involved. Maybe you shouldn't steamroll and go over people. Maybe there is a gentle way of doing it. Sure, I'm all for that. I'm not discounting that. But I'm again telling people, and I'll keep it short here, I'm just telling people, friends, please understand. These articles are gone and they are never coming back. You can do intellectual gymnastics on national television every evening. It won't matter. It's gone. It's dead. It's like a dead man. It's not coming back ever again. And through this medium, I would also like to salute every community in Jammu and Kashmir, all of you, right from Jammu to Doda to Kishtwar, right from Krishna Ghati to Bimbargali to Mender to Punch and Rajouri, from Kashmir Central, from Kashmir North, Kashmir South, even people up there in Doda and Kishtwar in the mountains, everybody. This has happened for the better. And do you know why there is almost no terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir now? Do you know why there is almost no stone pelting? Do you know why? Slowly and slowly, and I'm not saying there is rapid progress, because it will take time. Because the Abdullahs and the Muftis, by the way, who scream so loudly on Twitter and who claim to speak for Kashmiris, they dare not exit from their massive mansions without security. Today, before I close, I would like to tell them, Mr. Farooq Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti is inside. Whenever she comes outside, I challenge you. I challenge you as a leader. You've been chief ministers, both of you. Your family has ruled Kashmir. And Mehbooba Mufti, your father was the home minister of India when the Pandits were slaughtered and raped, when the genocide happened. It was your father who was the home minister of India. Don't forget that, 1989. So I would like to tell them, if you really feel that people of Jammu and Kashmir love you so much, why don't you come out of your bungalows and walk on the street without security? Please walk on the streets of Srinagar for half an hour. If you manage to walk on the streets of Srinagar for half an hour without security, I promise Farooq Abdullah, I promise Mehbooba Mufti, I will come on national television and I will apologize to you. I will, with folded hands, I will apologize to you that you were right and I'm wrong. And I was always wrong. I will say that. You dare not, because you know the sentiment of the common Muslim on the street. You are aware of the sentiment. They will not spare you. Today they realize that their children have died and their children were killed so that both of your families could be in power. You have looted. You have properties outside. What is the salary of a chief minister? What is your parental business? How many businesses do you have? None. Then where does all this money come from? Where does the massive mansion at Haidarpura for Gilani come from? Where do the London properties of Farooq Abdullah come from? You know, when Manuji spoke about, Jammu and Kashmir government getting money, getting more funds than the rest of India, and it was the top recipient of central funds. This is where the money went. If you look at the national highway in Kashmir, it's beautiful. Look at the state highway. Just go to Kashmir. I travel extensively in Kashmir. Go to South Kashmir. Go to Anantnag, that entire area. Go across from Handwara. Go to Kupwara. You will find out that the roads are so bad. There is no world-class technical institute in Kashmir today. In Jammu, yes, there is. Now they have opened IIM and IITs. But I'm saying that in Kashmir, there is nothing. These people have bled the common Kashmiri. This entire Pandit exodus that happened, entire Kashmiri Pandit exodus that happened, Farooq Abdullah, his family watched while the Hindu genocide took place in Kashmir, and they were beneficiaries of that genocide. Let it be very clear. Mehbooba Mufti, your father and you have been beneficiaries of the radicalization that has happened in Kashmir. And in the end, my last statement is in Hindi, आप सबके गुनहगार हैं, आप इंसानियत के गुनहगार हैं, आप पंडितों के गुनहगार हैं, आप डोगरों के गुनहगार हैं, आप वाल्मीकियों के, गोरखों के, रेफ्यूजीज के गुनहगार हैं, और सबसे बड़े अगर आप गुनहगार हैं तो आप कश्मीरी मुसलमानों के गुनहगार हैं, क्योंकि सबसे बड़ा धोखा आपने बोला कि आप हमारे हैं, और आपने सबसे पहले जो खंजर भोंका वो कश्मीरी मुसलमान की पीठ पे भोंका। जय हिंद।
So basically, we have Sanjay Pandey and Gauravji. His question for you is regarding recent utterances of Mr. Abdullah regarding China. So what would you like to say, like considering the how you perceive his remarks? Means although there are so many positive changes happening in the valley, why he mentioned, why he made such remarks, and what is your take on that? Gauravji, please.
Actually, positive changes are happening for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. They are no longer happening for the Abdullah family, which is why Farooq Abdullah is confused. Which is why Farooq Abdullah is saying, he made the China statement that Kashmiris are happier, will be happier under China. You see, this is a man who does not realize, you know, when the movie finishes, when a film finishes, all of us leave. All of us leave the cinema hall and go home. In a cinema hall, Farooq Abdullah is one of the few people, when the credits are rolling, the music is playing, everybody has left. He's the last guy in the cinema hall with that bag of popcorn, waiting for the movie to start again. He does not realize the ticket is only good for one movie. So this mental shock, Gupkar is the place where all these people live, Farooq Abdullah and all that, Mufti and all that. Gupkar has been the center of, you know, a 10-point earthquake on the Richter scale. It has finished everything in Kashmir, this abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. So what should Farooq Abdullah do? You know, Mufti's daughter keeps on sending all these tweets, which nobody reads. And Farooq Abdullah keeps on giving statements to the press. But he does not, you know, they are somehow wanting the old glory days back. But they should realize, they should come to terms with the fact that they're gone. Farooq Abdullah today is irrelevant. Irrelevant. Nobody cares who Farooq Abdullah. He's a has-been. Mehbooba Mufti is a has-been. They're gone. They're done for. They're finished. The movie is over. That's all I'd like to say.
Great. So one more question for you, Gauravji, from some of our audience and from myself as well. So we can clearly see from all the speeches which were made here by Praveenji, by Manuji, by yourself, by Surinderji, that all the steps which Indian government is taking, they are steps in a positive direction, contributing towards the universal principles of human rights. So the situation of human rights is strengthening in the valley because of the domicile laws, because of the abrogation of 370 and 35A. So although the situation in the valley human rights in the valley are strengthening because of these recent laws, from an international relation perspective, why do you think Pakistan and China, they are not ready to recognize it? Are they just looking at it from crass geostrategic and expansionist perspective? Gauravji, your take on this?
So the truth is that, you mentioned equality, you mentioned democracy. Both China and Pakistan, if you said democracy and equality to China and Pakistan, they won't understand what you're talking about. So obviously there is a lot of confusion. Because you see, what has happened is by abrogation of 370 and 35A, this complete narrative that Pakistan had been pushing for 70 years, it's gone. And even Pakistani television, if you see some of their intellectuals talking on television, you will realize that there is a tacit understanding and acceptance of the fact that these articles are gone, they are not coming back. And Narendra Modi and Amit Shah have forever changed the dynamics of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, which is why more than 100 tweets by Imran Khan over 1 year, over 100 tweets, in a fit of anger that why are they doing this? Hindutva, RSS, BJP, fascist ideology, all the he's not coherent at the best of times, Imran Khan. But after 35A and 370 abrogation, he absolutely lost his mental balance. Oh, that is what is happening. China's main thing is that you see the China-Pakistan economic corridor comes through Gilgit-Baltistan and the POK area. And India has said that we will take back POK. There is a 1994 Parliament resolution in India which says we have to take back 90. And when you finish off the special status of J&K, you are passing a very strong message to the rest of the world that India will play on the front foot. Hence, this entire thing, that when they do something in Galwan, the Pakistani media says, no, they did it because of Galwan, they did Galwan, or, this entire tension is because of abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. So Pakistanis will make up their own stories to justify their narrative, which are absolutely false. And so will the Chinese. I mean, we need to push very hard. We need to get our diplomats, and I think the diplomats are doing a fantastic job, but we need a harder push. We need to speak to students at Oxford, Cambridge, and all the Ivy League universities in the US. You need to have an outreach program, and you need to speak to them and tell the people about the positives. Just go hammer and tongs and do it. Every month you should be at some campus, some webinar, physical contact, or just go and invite like-minded people. Kaul Saab is from Texas. Why don't you this thing, once this Corona is over, why don't you book a huge place in Texas, a convention hall, and get like-minded people of the great state of Texas and explain it to them, that people come together and have these interactions, spend money, have these interactions, educate people, ensure that there is enough material, enough content on the internet, on Twitter, Facebook, Google, etc., and make sure that search engine optimization happens. So when people look for it, this is what they find on top, and not Pakistan's narrative. So if you do a couple of things, I think we are set to go, because we are in the path of the right. What we have done is absolutely legal. What we have done is right. And many people who are objecting, they have never been to Kashmir Valley. They have no idea what Kashmir is about. They have never been to Jammu. They don't know the difference between Jammu and Kashmir. They don't know there is a mountain range called Pir Panjal. So it's all very well to sit down on national television in Delhi at 9 o'clock and start shouting that this is wrong and that is wrong. But nobody takes these people seriously.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your intervention and your answers, Gauravji. So, last very quick question for you. You mentioned some of the incidences of global terrorism which are happening in the Kashmir Valley. So, the point is that probably I think you are also alluding to the fact that world should come to terms that whatever terrorism happening in the valley is connected globally and it isn't a local phenomena. What is your take on that? It is connected to the entire global terrorism which is happening. So please, your take on this.
No, absolutely, it's connected. You see all these terrorists when they wave the flags, when they click selfies, they always have the Islamic State flag or the Pakistan flag. It is a multinational enterprise. It is global in nature. There is no doubt. You have Al Qaeda. You have the Islamic State, which we call Daesh. You have for example, look at Lashkar-e-Taiba. Lashkar-e-Taiba is headed by Hafiz Saeed. Hafiz Saeed is not a Kashmiri. He's a Pakistani Punjabi. Maulana Masood Azhar is not a Kashmiri. Or Jaish-e-Mohammed, who carried out the Pulwama attacks and Also, the parliament attacks. He's a Punjabi Pakistani from Bahawalpur. The other fellow is from Mohit near Lahore. So all these people, you see, it is they're fighters. The originally what they used to send were Afghans, Sudanese. You see, all these people came. This is the epicenter of global jihad. It's just that the Indian army has set up such a strong anti-infiltration grid that they are not able to come through. That's all. Had there been no fencing, had there not been Indian army, you would have had people like with the same ideology of Osama bin Laden coming and playing havoc inside Delhi. Forget about Kashmir; they would have come to Delhi. It is just that the Indian army is stopping them on the border. The BSF, the Border Security Force, is doing a fantastic job on the border. They are stopping all these people. That is what is happening.